call to order the May 21st, 2020 meeting of the Herkimer BOCES. Um, can Sandy please use her flag and recite the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Just a note here, the same as we've done before, when you're making a motion or speaking or whatever, can you identify yourself first? That way it'll help everybody that's trying to keep track of what's going on here. Uh, we'll start with the review of the agenda. There anything anybody there needs to speak to? Hearing none. We'll go right into guest presentations, and I guess first one is Pathways Academy yearbook staff and students. And now I'm really dismayed that I'm not seeing anything because I love watching you students, but I'll have to watch the video later. Thank you. Go ahead.
Do you want me to share the, do I, yes, I need to know when you want me to share the video. Okay?
Sure. Well, okay, so this is Pat Corrigan. I'm the principal of Pathways, and I'm going to introduce my dynamic duo advisors, Sherry Evangelista and Dina Tesoro. Everything they do is above and beyond, and this year, their work with the yearbook and with student council is no different. They've trained me to have very high expectations, and they always exceed them. So I think I should probably just give the microphone to Sherry and Dina and let them go ahead. Okay, but they want to share with you guys what's gone on with the yearbook this year and with student council. So I'm muting.
Hi everyone, it's Sherry, and Dina is unmuted also.
Hi.
So this year we were the advisors for yearbook and for student council. Most of the students intermeshed with one of the committees into both of them. They work together on the committees. The first committee is the student council. We had them kind of do like an interview process in order to be on student council, and they had to fill out a piece of paper, meet with me and Ms. Tesoro, and go over the questions. And we picked from all the candidates who we thought would best be representation for their grade teams, which are 7, 8, 9, 10th, 11, 12th. I have 3 of them on today. One is Veronica Cavaretta, another one is Destiny Charles, and the other one is Emily Shepard. All 3 of them worked on student council and yearbook. So they made a little video to show you guys, and we'd like to show that to you whenever we can. All right, ladies, we're on a recorded meeting that we're going to have for the May board meeting, and some questions and answers in regards to student council and yearbook. So I'm going to start with Veronica. Veronica, what were the steps that we took in order for you to be on student council and the yearbook committee?
Mr. Gardner, the 10th grade global teacher, would hand us a paper during class saying that we're starting student council again. So then we would have to write down the answers on the paper, and then we would have to go to the art room to like get interviewed by you and Mrs. Sorrow. And then at the end of the week, you guys would pick the people to be in student council.
Destiny and Emily, what were your roles in both student council and yearbook committee? Destiny, you can go first.
Mine was to keep track of the money and donations and sign for it.
Emily, how about you?
For student council, I was a representative for my 9th and 10th grade class. And for yearbook club, I did a lot of the photographing.
Veronica, what was this year's theme in regards to student council?
For student council, we helped out the community. We did a thing for Anna Strong, who is also a student in Ilion. And then we helped out the flood victims. And then we went to the nursing home to spend the day with them for Valentine's Day.
What did you learn from the youth summit and were able to bring back to our school?
For youth summit, I basically grabbed is to help, like us students, we need to not be as stressed out in school. And what I think we did well is to talk more and open up more to our teachers, even though it is hard for us to open up to them. But I think what we did was very good is to help out our mental health during school, and that to know like we are not alone in all this and teachers could help us.
All right, girls, can you tell us the events that the student council did this year?
We ate cookies with the old people.
At the nursing home, yes.
We did the flood victims. We did feed our vets, and we did Anna Strong.
So, Veronica, can you explain what we did for the flood victims?
For the flood victims, we did a big assembly with everyone in the cafeteria, and we asked everyone to bring in either clothes, canned goods, and stuff to help them out. And we did a big donation for them.
Ladies, can you explain what the staff did for Feed Our Vets and how the students helped?
Gave them turkeys, and the students helped pack it up.
The teachers collected like canned goods for that you would have on Thanksgiving, really.
Can you explain the Anna Strong donation and assembly that we had?
We all brought in brand new toys and or like even money to help them out for when they like go to places for like their treatments and everything. And we basically helped them out for Christmas because they would have to like leave to go to the hospital. So we even got presents for her little brother too.
Do you think that that had like a big impact on our school?
It helped the students to realize that we are very lucky and we're very fortunate for what we have, and we shouldn't take things for granted or even life.
Destiny, can you explain what we did for the residents at the Grand Nursing Home?
We painted their nails, and we spent the day with them because their families don't visit a lot. And we painted their nails and did crafts.
Can any of you share what your favorite event that we did this year was on giving back, and why was it your favorite event?
I like the nursing home because we got to hang out with those people, and it made me realize how much I actually love my grandparents. And like I don't want to take any moment I have with them for granted.
The Anna Strong one.
How come?
Why is that?
Because I got to talk about hair stuff with her.
I picked the Anna Strong one because it kind of it's just a good experience to do things for other people.
Is there a certain event that you guys would like to do again if it was possible? All three of you? Nursing home. Veronica, how about you?
Probably like what we did for Anna, but like for more like other people who are like struggling.
Girls, is there a new event on giving back that we could do next year for the school year? Any new ideas?
Give back to a homeless shelter.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Or we could do Parkinson's awareness.
Help people with like with more like mental health, like what we did at Youth Summit, talk more about that, but like with older like younger adults and stuff to like help us like realize like there's like more coping skills and stuff.
Could each of you give me one idea that we can do as part of student council and or yearbook that would pertain giving back to either our staff or our students? Just one idea from
prom.
each. Okay,
Prom.
go ahead, Emily.
We could buy flowers for everyone.
Okay, I like that idea.
We should do more stuff for the holidays. Like for Valentine's Day, we should do like pay $1 a rose or like pay a BOCES buck a rose so people can give it to somebody.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Good ideas. I like these ideas. Why is it important to have student council and yearbook committees at the school? Who wants to go first? Emily, go ahead.
Because we should be able to have a say in our academics.
I think it helps us do more for the school and actually make us feel like a school.
Okay.
Like we're an actual school. We could actually do stuff and help us students to make it feel like we're there for a bad reason. We're there to like get help and everything.
To help out with problems that teachers and principals sometimes don't see, and to make everybody feel heard.
Very good.
You guys, you really, answered those questions really well. I'm very proud of you all, and I appreciated you guys, and I really, really hope you all want to be a part of student council in yearbook next year because we need you. Okay, I had to unmute myself, sorry. So these three girls are on with us right now that can talk about student council or yearbook if anybody has questions for them in regards to student council. No? Okay, I'm gonna say no. All right. We also have the yearbook that no one has seen yet. We did show Mr. Corrigan the other day, so he wouldn't be shocked when he's seen a couple pages. So I was gonna go and show that now. Is that okay, Ms. Sherwood?
That is a great question. Can I make it so you can present? Do you see a present button? Then go right ahead. Then go
Okay.
right ahead.
Okay. Okay, it's coming. So this is our cover of the yearbook. Ms. DeSaro did this with another student that isn't on with us right now. The bottom roots are all the school districts that make up Pathways. The trunk is Pathways with all of the seniors' initials engraved in there.
Nice.
And then it has all words that DeSaro put up there.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Thank you.
This is why we had to show Mr. Corrigan, so he wouldn't get mad at me for dumping this on him today. The students got together and wanted to do a dedication page, and these are the two that they wanted to dedicate it to, Mr. Corrigan and Miss Palladino, who is a mental health counselor at Pathways.
It's very well done.
Mm-hmm.
That's Pat, you must be very moved.
Yeah, so thank you. I didn't expect to. I feel a little bit of emotion now, but I can't speak. But I'm just really grateful to well, Dina and Sherry, but obviously to the kids, and it's just very flattering. So
It's more than
all I got right
flattering.
now.
It's more than flattering. It's a tribute to how you make people feel. And I think we've heard that from all our superintendents and for our board members who were there. Veronica, I think you were my tour guide. There is a feeling in that building that is pride and respect. And out of that comes some tremendous growth. So congratulations. That's a beautiful dedication.
So I did explain to Sherry and Dina that this is not something I do well. I don't accept compliments well. So but I appreciate everything you're saying, and to me it defies logic. But so I appreciate it. Thank you.
This has taken a pathway school to where we'd hoped it would be. For being on that board for a long time in the beginning, all we heard were the problems that were there, and now we're seeing the successes that are there. Thank you for all the work that you and all of your staff do, because it's so nice to sit on the board and now watch wonderful things coming out of that school as opposed to sitting there and dealing with the problems there. So thank you to your whole staff.
And by the way, Paladino, she's not here. I'm happy to, more than proud to share the page with her as well. So, I just feel like she deserves a mention tonight.
Absolutely. Well said.
All right, I'm going to keep going. Is that okay?
Yes, please.
Okay. So now we have the principal, vice principal page, and then we also have Ms. Sherwood in the board's page.
Pre-COVID.
Yep, pre-COVID. This was a little challenging putting this together. Being at home, not having students help, and things that we were thinking that we were going to be able to do that we weren't able to do because we weren't at school. So it made little things challenging. These are our seniors.
And Mr. Corrigan, I think after this, you're going to speak a little bit about what you're going to do for seniors, or somebody is.
I can, sure.
Go ahead. That's beautiful.
We have a lot of seniors this year. It's amazing. The senior baby pictures.
That also was a tribute to the Pathways, because so many of these were kids that we never thought would get this far. And so this is really nice to see that you brought these students all the way to this point.
Thank you. This is all the senior candidates that we took throughout the year, mostly Emily, some Destiny, some Veronica took. Here's our juniors. Our sophomores. Our freshmen. In 8th and 7th grade. And these are all their candidates of all those classes put together. We did the seniors separate and gave them their own candid page, and then mixed all the other classes together this year. Nice. Here are all the staff at Pathways. My favorite part is coming up next, just want to say. And it's the staff baby pictures. This is my favorite page.
Yeah, I love it.
They get to guess who we are. If anybody wants to know, right here's Mr. Corrigan.
Oh, down in the corner.
This is Miss DeSaro, and this is me. Aww. We're always together. And this is just our candidates, all the staff candidates.
I retired those glasses just a month ago.
This page is our staff signature page. So staff will give money to go towards the yearbook, and then they usually handwrite something to go in the yearbook like they did last year, and we weren't able to do that. So Miss DeSaro had a lot of fun typing up different fonts and fitting everything in that she could possibly fit in with this. This was her baby. And these are just our ads that sponsored us and paid for these yearbooks. Thank goodness for them. Most of these ads, Mr. Lopez, who is on contribute.
be costing millions of dollars across the state. That webinar actually was, I don't know how many of you got to see it. It was quite scary with the number of things that we ought to be doing. And as I'm watching that, I thought about that morning when I went to Stewart's to pay for my gas. I was number 4 in line. The 3 people in front of me were buying lottery tickets, cigarettes, and beer, all of which the governor is getting some tax money on. If I could be 4th in line with no problem in that line, I don't see why we couldn't be 4 in line to vote on our school budgets. I think our governor's got to think a little bit about some of the things that he's doing to us. I guess I'll get off my soapbox with that, but we're going to face some really tough times here. On a little happier note, seeing that our school in Richfield is shut down, our contractors have been allowed to work, and a lot of our construction is very much getting done. They're doing a lot of work outside on the building, repointing. They're doing a lot of roofing work. They're doing a lot of work that they would not normally be able to do until school was out, and hopefully that will allow us to close our project out maybe a year earlier than we would have. So I guess if there's any kind of silver lining here, that's a little bit of it. Other than that, I don't have a lot to report. I just hope we can get our seniors off in a good way, and this can be something they can tell their grandchildren about. Bill, if you got things to talk about with NISBA or SPI?
I haven't had anything, communications only with Jim on SBI. We were working on trying to do some type of a broadcast where people could join in with Bob Schneider and Jay Rorona, but couldn't work out some dates or something to get that done. We're doing our meetings virtually. I got a meeting June 7th. That's going to be a virtual meeting. It will be, shortened. Because we usually have like a mega issue and something like that we'd like to go through, but it'll be pretty much routine business and making sure everybody's got what they need to help their areas out with what they what's coming up. I think NISBA's been doing a great job getting information out. I don't know, Sandy, maybe you can address that more as a DS if you think there's other areas we ought to be working at, but Bob puts out an executive letter every single Saturday with updates and things that are going on. And, I think they do a great job during the week. As soon as something hits, they put out a special alert on it and stuff. So other than that, our people are all working from home right now. They have not decided when they will bring them back in or how they're going to do that. I think this working from home industries as well as NISBA have found that maybe working from home isn't such a bad idea. And where I work, when I go back in a couple of weeks, I will not be working from internally. I will be working out of my RV, which is in a park 15 minutes away. So I don't know, Sandy, is there something that you could think of that we could address in some kind of not just an on board, but an alert out during the week? Bob's always there. You could give him a call and say, hey, Bob, I've thought about this, and maybe it's something we ought to talk to our districts about. So,
I think they've done wait, am I muted? No, okay. I think they've done a really good job of keeping their finger on the pulse of what the concerns are and trying to track. Once in a while, they've gotten a little bit out ahead and had to correct what they've put out, because one thing with the governor, you watch his press conferences, and then some. Originally, I think they were watching the press conference and then putting something right out, only to find that when the executive order comes out, it's slightly different, and then you have to revise. So I have gotten all the superintendents. Like today, he announced virtual summer school, and there was a debate whether he said that you have to continue feeding kids through the summer, or whether you may continue feeding kids through the summer. So all I could do, and I missed it because I was in meetings all day, so I didn't see the governor at all. So I was able to obtain the one slide that talked about schools, and the slide certainly indicates you will have to continue feeding the kids through the summer. But until we get the executive order, you don't know that yet. So, don't start hiring staff or anything. So I think everybody, not just NISBA, had to learn to wait for the actual written order. So, but I think they've been doing a great job, Bill, of keeping on top of it and trying to get out information quickly and accurately. I think they've done a very good job.
Okay, well, I just want to put it out. If you think of something, call Bob direct and talk to him, Jay Verona, and they'll get it right out and their ideas.
Yeah, Van Warmer from School Board Institute did ask about doing a seminar on absentee ballots or something like that. And I said, there's really nothing to seminar about. This is what we have to do. There's very little leeway about what you can and can't do. And sometimes it's better to read the executive order and do what your board decides to do. And if you get it a little wrong, just say, well, I based it on the executive order, rather than have a big seminar, which might change your thinking or make you aware of something you weren't aware of that now you have to implement something else. So I said to Jim Van Warmer, I don't think there's wisdom in that right now, because it's only, unless they want it for therapy, so people can come and vent about the absentee ballots and the costs and how difficult it is, and but otherwise there's no value in it, because there's nothing to be learned other than it's the law and we have to follow it right now. Yeah. So, but it was a good conversation.
Yeah. Okay.
Mike, I think I heard your voice.
I did call in.
Excellent. Okay.
So, Mike, do you have anything to share?
We had 2 fine candidates for the superintendent position, and we did fill it, and I'd like to thank everybody for participating. And Sam did an excellent job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else there, or are we ready to move on to new business?
We can move on.
Okay, new business, on A, do you want to speak to this at all, Sandy?
So I am very happy to present to you a tentative agreement with the administrators unit. Obviously, these are difficult times. When we started the negotiation, it was in what I keep calling the before times, when we were in buildings together, having direct conversation, when our budgets weren't obliterated by all these mandates and then the loss of revenue. So we ended in a very different place than we started, but the admin team was great to work with. They're certainly keenly aware of the stresses on our school districts and on our programs because of the stresses on the school districts. So I do have a tentative agreement that was in your packet for you to review. The overall, it's a 3-year instead of a 4-year, because maybe we'll recover by the 4th year. So it is a 2.5% salary increase each year, but there's also an insurance give back each year of the contract. The prescription plan ramps up every year to a higher contribution rate. The other thing that's interesting that we put in, and it is not factored into the costs of the contract, but we asked if we could put in a gold and a silver medal plan just as options. We have had that request from other people who come to work for us. They've asked if they could have a lower, what they do is they ask typically Jim, is there a lower costing insurance plan? And he has to say, well, yes, but you're not eligible for it because your union doesn't have that in their contract. And there have been some folks who have really wanted to lower their, because of course the premium is shared, typically 85-15. So we pay 85%, they pay 15%. But if the premium gets lowered, their 15% also gets lowered. So, so they just agreed to have it in there as an option. It is not mandated for anybody to go to, but it's an option if somebody needs to or wants to. So I think that's a good thing. And I think it's going to actually be more important for our other units, probably more than the admin unit, especially the CSEA folks start getting that in, because the CSEA folks are the people who ask about it quite often. Could we please have an option? And right now it's not in their contract. So those are the kind of things that are before you tonight. But all the details, you received the entire tentative agreement.
So we're ready to vote on this tonight then?
I would appreciate that. They ratified it.
Okay.
The night before, sorry, last night. Okay.
So we need to ask for a motion and a second. And identify yourself.
Ron Liacono, so moved. Dan Vos, second.
Any other discussion or questions? Sean, I guess we're ready to vote.
Mike Clements,
Yes.
Deborah Kessler,
Yes.
Ron Liacono,
Yes.
Janine Lynch,
Yes.
Schmidt, Bob,
Yes.
Tom Shipsky,
Yes.
Linda Tharp, Linda, can you give me a thumbs up or unmute?
Thumbs up.
Okay. Dan Vos,
Yes.
okay. Thank you.
How about that? One quick question. This is good for now for 3 years then?
Correct. So it will expire June 30th of 2023. Right, Mary?
Hey, Sean? Hello?
Bill?
Yeah, I'll vote yes. My name wasn't called.
Oh, I'm sorry, Bill.
Thank you, because I was thinking, how did I only get 8? Okay.
You only got 8, Sandy? Who else? Oh, you should have 9.
Well, I do now that Bill voted.
Okay, good. Sorry, Bill.
That's all right.
Okay, so the motion passed.
Thank you, and congratulations, and thanks to the administrators. I appreciate it. Thank you all.
Okay, we need a motion to accept the calendar amendment.
Janine Lynch from West Canada, make a motion.
Bill Miller, I'll second it.
Any questions or discussions on the calendar amendment?
Yeah, so you will have another one at your June meeting. This is to align to the governor's previous executive orders where you had to work through spring break and use any vacation days that were available through the end of the school year. So this makes that adjustment. It takes all those days over spring break plus this Friday, tomorrow, would have been a vacation day. So it takes that back as an instructional day. And then at the next meeting, all of the superintendents have been going through their calendars and counting to make sure they have 180 student days. Because remember, we had flood days, we had snow days, we had COVID days that were pre-governor's order. All of those things have to be taken into consideration to get to 180 student days. So as of this afternoon's cabinet meeting, I think 8 out of 10 of the districts have their closing day. 2 are still in the mix. And so we will have our closing day once I know what 7 of them are doing. And they all, right now, the 8 aren't all doing the same thing. So I will know probably tomorrow or the next day, which I guess would actually be Tuesday because we do have Monday off. So I'll have it for your next board packet in June, and it will amend the end of the school year. We need to stop saying we're closing early because we're not closing early. We're just changing the end of the school year because we worked through other days that were supposed to be vacation days. And I've been trying to get people to say, stop saying we're ending school early because we're not. We're putting in the same number of days we normally would. It's just other days were taken away from us. So trying to get people to shift their thinking around that a little bit.
What was the justification for taking away like tomorrow? What were we supposed to be accomplishing?
The reason it has to be instructional? Yes. Because the governor's order, as of March 18th, either 202.11 or 202.18, one of his executive orders, he stipulated early on that he would give you full state aid credit for providing remote instruction after March 18th, as long as you had used any emergency days or any holidays that you worked straight through those days before you closed for the end of the school year. And the thinking, quite honestly, was when COVID ramped up to the point of closure, it was right before a lot of districts around the state's spring break. And he didn't see any wisdom in doing a 3 or 4 day start of instruction and then a week or a week and a half off and then trying to resume that instruction. And State Ed actually backed him up and put out a memo, I believe on March 30th, reinforcing that you need to provide instruction every day, Monday through Friday, other than a federal holiday. So Monday is a federal holiday, so we are off. But Friday was a vacation day. So we had to recoup it, and that's why we have to adjust the end of our school year a little bit.
Any other questions to discussions before we vote? Hearing none. Sean?
Okay, let's try this. Mike Clements? Deb Kessler?
Yes.
Ron Liacono?
Yes.
Janine Lynch?
Yes.
Bill Miller?
Yes.
Bob Schmid?
Yes.
Tom Shipsky?
Yes.
Linda Tharp?
Yes.
Dan Bose?
Yes.
Thank
I
you.
think I got everybody.
Yeah, I got 9 that time.
Okay, moving on to policy review. Is there anything there we need to vote on? It says no action.
There is one policy, which is policy 6505, which is up for a first reading, but I'd like to ask you to consider waiving the second reading because it's a federal law right now. It is the amended COVID-specific FMLA. So there's very little laterality in what we can do with it, and it already has a sunset clause. It ends on December 31st of this year, but it is a federal law that is in effect, and I think we very well might have some staff who may apply for it. I've been hearing rumblings and that people may be applying for it. So I would, if possible, I'd like to waive the second reading. On the other hand, if you prefer, our next board meeting isn't that far away. And if anybody applied, we just have to tell them to wait because the board hasn't approved the policy yet.
Unless anybody has an objection, I'll entertain a motion to take care of it now.
This is Dan. I'll make a motion.
This is Linda. I second it.
Any other discussion or questions?
Is that for
I
the
guess you're
waiving of the second?
We are waiving the second. We're going to vote on that now.
Okay.
You're fine with that?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else? Hearing none after delay. Sean, I guess you're on.
Okay. Mike Clements?
Yes.
Deb Kessler,
Yes.
Ron Liacono,
Yes.
Janine Lynch,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Bob Schmid,
Yes.
Tom Shipsky,
Yes.
Linda Tharp,
Yes.
and Dan Bose.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you all. And thank you to Jim. He's the one who handles all the FMLA. So he went through it very carefully to make sure it was all correct under the federal regs.
So there's nothing else we needed to vote on there then, Sandy?
Nope, there are some regulations that were in your packet. They're tied to things you just approved at the last meeting. So it's just the regulation side of life. Very, very minor changes to the regulations. Mostly they were reference changes, reference to law, reference to particular names of the government. Basically, the law changed the name of a document, so we had to change the name of the document. Very minor.
Thank you. Moving down to D, the Rural School Conference canceled. I'm very sad to see that. I've attended that a number of years and I always found that it's very, very pertinent to our schools. So I'll miss that. Moving on to positive thoughts. I guess we can't pass it around. And everybody already spoke. So unless somebody has something positive they want to speak about. Hearing none. Topics for next meeting. Does anybody have anything that they would like to get a report on or anything else for our next meeting?
Tom,
I would like.
Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, Sandy. I would like Sandy to keep track of it. I sent Sandy an email on this. I think we really need to keep a close eye at what's going on with the opening of school in September. This is going to be quite a problem if they do not open the schools, because you've got a lot of people out there, like my wife, who's teaching 3 grade levels, who does not even have a teaching certificate, nor, by the way, is she getting a check from the school for being a substitute yet. But I think we need to keep a close eye on that, because this is going to be a real big problem where these people are not going to be as apt to say, okay, we'll homeschool them, especially in my wife's case, because she has 3 grade levels and she would have 4 next year, and I told her, you're not doing it. I mean, so Sandy, if you can just really keep a close eye on that for us, I think we need to know what's going on, what the governor decides.
Yeah, yep. And we are working as a region. It was a good chunk of my cabinet meeting. So I've been meeting with the superintendents 1 or 2 times a week. Originally, it was probably 3 times a week. So we're down to 1 or 2. A big chunk of the time is talking about that reopening and starting some reopening committees, regional as well as within districts, because one big difference this year when they closed, it was a rapid close, it was a sudden close, and basically state ed forgave you teaching new material. So it was more about reinforcing, but next year we have to be prepared to actually deliver instruction this way. If in fact we even if we open, we may swing back into this environment depending on what the virus does. So we are going to have to be very flexible and very nimble, but it's going to have to be actual direct instruction from the teacher.
Now, how are they going to handle what the kids didn't get taught the last part of this year? Because, it's been basically everything I've seen these kids bring home is all review work and working with them that way. But there's a chunk of education that didn't happen.
Yeah, about 2 months worth.
Figure out how. I mean, I've heard some states say that they're going to start up in August and have a whole month of catching up what didn't get taught before going into new. So I don't know if there's any idea how are they going to do this.
So state education department has already made some adjustments. You may recall this was the last year of the rollout of the new the next generation standards. So next spring was supposed to be the first assessments built on those standards. So state education has already pushed that all back by a year. So the next assessments will be based on the New York State standards that have been in place. One of the things we're doing regionally, and I'm sure it's being done around the state, but I can only speak about our region, is our ISS team, Kathy's team, is really working on doing some kind of robust professional development this summer, because for our K-8 folks in particular, I don't know how many of you remember back when we used to do where you stay with kids basically for 2 years. You might be the first grade and second grade teacher, the second grade and third grade teacher. To some extent, all of our K-8 staff are going to be doing some level of looping, because I might be a fourth grade teacher, but I got to teach the last 3 months of third grade before I can teach my fourth grade curriculum. And I might be an eighth grade teacher, but I'm going to have to teach the last 3 months of seventh grade before I can teach them the eighth grade. At the high school level, essentially, you know how Oprah, you get a car, you get a car. Basically, at the high school level, you got credit, you got credit, you got credit. You got exemption from any regions that might have been associated with your class. So those kids, because so much of high school curriculum is siloed, so they're not going to have as much to make up. They're still going to have a learning deficit potentially in that content area, but they won't ever really be assessed on it because it's over and they're moving on to the next content area. So it's a little different at the high school. And the colleges, to some extent, are going to have to make up that learning gap for some of them, particularly, of course, our seniors. So, so it is a little different picture, K-8 versus the high school world, only because of the way the courses are developed. Does that help? It's a mess.
Yeah,
And it's so hard to help our kids at home. I mean, I was a strong math student all the way through calculus in college. My grandson in first grade came home with 3 worksheets, new math. I sat there for half an hour and could not help him with a single one of first grade, you know, whatever I was telling him. So that's not what my teacher said. So we can't even help our kids at home in a lot of cases.
Yeah, I know.
Well, Tom, what you have to do is like my wife's been doing, teaching the old way of math. That's the only way she can do it, because she doesn't know any other way.
Yeah.
At least they understand the concept of how to get the answer and getting the correct answer, but it's not the way it would have been taught. That's all.
Right.
Yeah. So it'll be a big shift because it'll be much more direct instruction, even if it has to be virtual. It's going to have some level of direct instruction. And what we spent a lot of time talking about today also is the truth is we're probably going to have a blend. Even if we're allowed back in the buildings, we are going to have parents who will not send their kids. They're either immune compromised or they're just afraid. And the governor's kind of already laid some language. If you look at his executive order, sorry, I don't remember which number, I'd have to look, where he talks about absentee ballots, not the one for our school budget vote, the absentee ballot regulation he put out before that, maybe around Executive Order 22 or somewhere right in there. He said there's language in there about absentee ballots, because usually to get an absentee ballot, you have to know you're going to be out of town, or you know you are going to be disabled either permanently or temporarily at the time of the vote. He added language that if you are ill with COVID or fearful of becoming ill, then you're eligible for an absentee ballot. I suspect that language is going to be extended to our students. I'm hoping not our staff, because that would be a problem from an absenteeism standpoint. But I believe it's going to be extended to parents for their students. And the reason I think he's going to do that is because if, in fact, maybe my child is immune compromised, maybe they're not, but I think they're going to get it, and I want them to be home. It's going to be up to the school to instruct that child at home. It's not going to be like the anti-vaxxers, where they actually said, if you don't get your child vaccinated, you are categorically homeschooling your child because you need to get them vaccinated. I don't think it's going to be that. It's going to be, It's going to be the school's responsibility. So our classrooms are probably going to have webcams in them so that any given day, if a student isn't able to come to school, maybe they wake up with a fever, and then therefore they're prohibited under CDC regulations from coming to school, they can still participate with their class remotely. The only upside of that I see is that it would actually work for our teachers too. Because let's say a teacher wakes up and they feel okay, but they actually have a fever, and the CDC says you cannot report to a school if you have a fever. But they could teach from home. Then the school district doesn't have to get a substitute teacher. They need to get a supervisor. They just need to have an adult supervising the class, because the teacher can still teach remotely. So it could end up being a little bit of a give and take there. But that's the kind of stuff that we've got to figure out. And we have, according to what the governor said today, the executive order's not out yet, so I don't have it in writing. But what he said today was that we will have to have our reopening plan submitted to State Education Department sometime in July. That's not very long, actually, to get this all in place. But that's what he said today. Again, I don't have it in writing, so I can't, I can't be any clearer on that.
Do we have the technology for that?
For having remote learning to every single student potentially? No.
Yeah.
Our region doesn't even have that capability in broadband access.
So,
but that is
yeah.
the thing that the state is actually asking state ed to find out. What pockets of the state are still lacking broadband? And they're saying they're going to work with the broadband providers to get it in place. That's fortunately out of my.
We have the technology in every classroom, though.
Well, you could take a Chromebook and turn it around, and it's a webcam.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, it would not be expensive to make sure every classroom had essentially a webcam through a Chromebook or something. And the other side of it would be, what if in the fall the CDC says you can only have 50% capacity in your buildings? Then you're going to have half the kids home and half the kids in school potentially. So again, you'd have to have some kind of remote process where the kids can still participate in their learning and the teachers are still teaching. So it's going to be a challenge either way.
And it creates a huge busing issue.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Just thought I'd throw that out there.
Yeah.
Moving on, do we have any other topics for our next meeting?
Well, I just have a question. As you know, we started, and I'll talk with more specificity in executive session just to lay the foundation, but I would like the board to consider having a special meeting, almost like a retreat meeting, on June 18th to really kind of do a deep dive on the admin organization and the roles and responsibilities. I've been collecting all that information from the leaders just so you can see how the pieces all fit together. But I think it would be good to have just a meeting dedicated to that, and I want to propose June 18th, which is a Thursday night, as possibly a night. We don't need to decide tonight because we have one more board meeting before that, but I wanted to put it out there that the admin work that I've been asked to do and I've been working on with Jackie, I think we need to dedicate a special meeting, just like an executive session retreat kind of thing, where we just kind of deep dive and go through all the different roles and responsibilities.
This is Mike. Could we maybe propose to do it in person?
We could use Ellis. How many of us are there? There'd be, if Sean doesn't show up, there'd be 11 of us.
If you're in executive session, I don't need to be there.
You don't have to show up, right? But it's still over the 10. Right now, the state regulation would prohibit any groups over the size of 10.
I could do it
So that will change by June 18th.
I could do it remotely, and that would give you 10 plus I could be remote.
Okay, so there you go. As long as one person participated remotely, we could do that.
Good.
So just food for thought. We don't necessarily have to decide tonight. We could do it next week and officially like name it as a special board meeting or a retreat, whatever the right language is, where it's really just, you guys are just gonna kind of do a deep dive with me. Okay. Okay. That's all I had.
I just wanted to ask a quick question, Sandy, on the look back.
You're freezing terribly,
Yeah.
Sandy. Is it just me or is everybody seeing that?
I don't know. I'm very animated.
Okay, can everybody hear me? Have I frozen?
We can hear you.
We can hear you, but your picture is freezing. Bob, your question?
Oh,
The
okay,
look
you're back.
backs, we haven't heard anything in Dollarville. I didn't know if you had heard anything and how that's going to affect our up and coming budget for the year.
Can you see and hear me?
We can hear you. Your picture is frozen. So Bob, the look backs, so I just had my state ed meeting this week, Monday and Tuesday, and they said they don't think we're going to get any information from the governor as far as the look back goes until probably maybe the end of next week, which is
Okay, you're back, but you're freezing tremendously. I don't know whether it's just my computer or.
Okay. I think it's your computer, Tom. I think somebody else give me a thumbs up if your computer's working fine. Yeah, I think it's probably the connection, Tom. So Bob, the state ed said that they don't think we're going to get anything until probably at least the end of next week.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. And there's also, just so you know, the governor hasn't actually, you may have noticed, well, maybe he did today. Again, I didn't see his news conference. Did anybody hear anything about a second board vote if a budget is voted down?
Hello?
Yeah.
No, I haven't heard anything. I haven't seen anything come through from NISBA either.
Yeah, unfortunately, one of the things that is being considered is that there won't be second votes. That if your budget is not approved in the first round, you will just go to contingency. So we really need that executive order, and we don't have it. So that'll be a problem.
Sandy, I had a couple questions.
Yeah.
It had to do with pathways. Mr. Corbin should certainly be proud of what he's accomplished there. And the yearbook was wonderful. But I did notice 9th and 10th grade seemed larger than the 10th or the 11th and 12th.
Mm-hmm.
Is that common?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a couple of factors, unfortunately, that sometimes come into play with pathways. Well, for one thing, sometimes the kids actually, and Roberta, you may be able to speak to this with more specificity, but I mean, sometimes they are doing well enough and they've recovered enough credits that they can maybe go back to the half day and go to CTE half day. Unfortunately, some of them also, as happens in your school, they turn 16 and they are no longer of a compulsory age and they stop coming to any of our schools. That happens too. Roberta, do you have other thoughts on that?
No, that's exactly right, Sandy. And I think we have a pretty big graduation group this week, which is, or this year, which is phenomenal for that building. We haven't had that in the past, so we're really excited about that. But those 11th and 12th graders are the ones that we really need to connect with and hook them into something that makes them want to stay in school.
Yeah, that's the key.
Okay, thank you. One other thing, it has to do with last month's minutes. We approved some bids on food and the bids go from May 1st to October 31st. What happens with those?
Jody, you want to answer the bid question? Uh-oh. Gotta get her unmuted. While she's getting unmuted, one of the things that I'm going to be recommending for the next board meeting is that we go to Zoom instead of Google, because it has more controls, including the ability for the host to help mute or unmute people, which will help with feedback. So I'll send you out the information. It's very similar to this. And if you want, we'll be able to do a practice session, just like one-on-one, to make sure it works for you. The first time you use it, there'll be a quick download. Your computer will kind of do it automatically. But it's going to give us a little bit more control over sound and image and stuff. So we're going to try that for the June 4th meeting. Jody.
Okay, so just a reminder that all our bids are not just for Herkimer BOCES, they're for all our districts, our components. The food bid, because prices fluctuate so much, that's why we do that one every 6 months as opposed to an annual basis.
Did that capture your question, Mike?
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, Jody.
Last question has to do, and again, this is last question, has to do with the sharing of house and central fund with the county. Is that even legal if we take school money and give it to the county? I'm just curious.
Was that the municipal agreement about?
Yes, about sharing.
Yeah, so that was a specific municipal agreement that we were asked to do because all schools were asked to step forward to make, if not donate, if you had it in stock, PPE. So the way that the executive order allowed that, as long as it was done through a municipal agreement. What happened originally, Mike, was that schools stepped right up plate and started using their 3D printers to make face masks for the first responders and the healthcare professionals, and we're just giving them to their local hospitals and stuff. But there were these other agencies that weren't as local saying, hey, what about us? So what they said is you have to donate it to your county, and then the county can dispense it from there, and it is not considered a gift of taxpayer money as long as you're using that taxpayer money to give back to a taxpayer institution, which is the county Department of Health. Well, for us, it's called the Public Health Department. Yep. Anything else?
Okay, Sandy, I got the information on the.
Anything else?
Yeah, Tom?
Bill?
Yeah, okay, here's the, just text Jay Warona on the revote issue.
Yeah.
And he said the school lawyers of the state have pretty much suggested that revotes are not prohibited. They think they are right. The key is ensuring that we comply with notice requirements in order to have them conducted if necessary in accordance with the provisions of the law. We have been advising all school districts to consult with their school attorneys as to what they are specifically advising their client school districts. Executive order does not prohibit revotes. There's no mention of revotes in the executive orders.
Good. The concern is, I'm glad to hear him say that, and it's one of the reasons we want to be careful about complaining about the cost of the absentee ballots, because I think the whole conversation about not having a second vote is because everybody's complaining about how much it costs, and it would be the same process. So the answer has kind of been, okay, we won't allow a second vote. So gotta be careful. Gotta be careful.
I think what Jay is saying is every district needs to follow their attorneys, because it looks to me like that may not be the case. They may have to have a second vote, even though they don't
Usually
want
the
to.
second vote is there's a required date by statute. That's the other piece, is that required date is actually before the, or just after, like within a week of the first vote. So, yeah. Yeah, so good. That's good. I'm glad Ms. was on that. Thank you.
Yep. Doesn't the board have the option, this is Ron Larry, doesn't the board have the option just to go to contingency if the budget's voted down? They don't even, they aren't required to have a second vote.
You are absolutely correct.
Yeah, this
Absolutely.
would just be if they wanted to have one, it's not prohibited.
Right. Right.
Do we have any other administrative reports that, other than the district superintendent, that we need to hear that weren't in the packet?
I think everybody had their reports in. I don't know if there's any questions for them.
Okay, then I guess.
They're all here.
I'm just wondering how the special ed and the
hearing that
or migrant
Hold on,
workers.
Bob, got a question. Bob?
Just wondering how the.
I guess Sandy.
Bob, go ahead with your question.
Just wondering how it was impacting our special ed kids and our migrant education program, but by not having people right there on site.
Roberta, you want to go first with special ed?
Well, certainly, no, it's an adjustment. Families are doing their best to support students, especially our students with multiple disabilities who require like PT. PT was probably the most difficult one to do virtually. So our physical therapists are doing an excellent job of supporting families and really walking them through how to provide range of motion for students. But really, I have been very, very impressed with our staff and what they're doing with our students. This would have taken us years in another environment. We have come so far in such a short period of time that I'm really proud of the work that they're doing. And I do think that, this was not a great situation, but there are things that we will definitely take from these times and use as we move forward. So I think we're doing a really good job considering everything.
I'm sure you are. I'm just thinking, do you think that the parents have got some accolades to have here too, working with this situation with their kid?
I think some of them do, and they have shared those with us. There are parents that are very frustrated. They have students, multiple students, and I think as we talked about today, in multiple grade levels, and they're not exactly sure how to support them. And so our counselors have been reaching out to families and parents as well as students. And I meet with every one of our counselors every single week, and that's what we talk about, because we feel like our responsibility also is to the parents, because if the parents are doing well, then our kids are going to do well. So we've made referrals to health homes during this environment. We've made all kinds of referrals through the front door. Whatever we can do to support families, we're doing it.
And just before we go to migrant, I will add, I think one of the things that from a lifelong learning perspective, having the parents literally in the room for the therapies in particular is probably a tremendous help in the student's development of whether it's occupational therapy, which is the fine motor skills, or whether it's speech, or whether it's PT, because the parent is actually right part and parcel working with the therapist. So from a lifetime, because remember, they're learning skills for life in OT, PT, and speech. So I think there's a tremendous benefit of kind of like Wizard of Oz, pull back the curtain. The parents are now seeing what the therapy is, why they do it the way they do it, they'll be able to support the student better at the dinner table with a hand over hand, because they now understand what the movement is supposed to look like. So I think that that's kind of a long-term benefit too, to our parents, because they don't usually get to see those therapies.
And if I can just share one anecdote, we developed, a lot of our kids have behavior plans for school. So our counselors took those behavior plans and made them applicable at home and worked with them with parents. And now we're hearing when the teachers and the counselors and the therapists virtually go into the homes, they will hear the language that is in those BIPs and the behavior plan for home. And there is nothing more thrilling. I mean, we've been doing this for years and years, and we review the plans, but the fact that, you know, they're in the home, we sent them the copies, we reviewed them with them. When we go into the homes, we check on it. We're seeing actually better success in terms of parents and them understanding the behavior plans, and as Sandy said, the therapies than we have ever before.
So it sounds like you're educating the parents too then.
I think to some extent they're welcome in an environment where normally they can't be because of privacy laws and stuff. So yeah. Mary, you want to talk about migrant a little bit? Thank you, Roberta.
Been a challenge for us because we're in 80 school districts, so everyone is doing something different. My staff have been bridged in a lot of cases because they had parent contacts already established, so they worked with the ESL teachers and the classroom teachers and helped establish the connections. Sometimes worked on computer needs for the family, help them, all remotely, of course, get things hooked up and then get the lessons going. So when this first happened, my staff said, well, we may have to not work, but now they say they're busier than they've ever been. So it's been really good in some ways.
Thank you, Mary.
Any other questions for our leaders?
Do you have anything more for us, Sandy?
No, I think most of what I've been dealing with has come out through various things we've already dealt with tonight. So we do have an executive session just to discuss a personnel matter, but other than that, we're good.
Okay, well then we'll take note of future business and meetings. The reception for retirees and newly tenured employees will be just before our fourth meeting, unless we live stream, we can be inside out. So, and then our reorg meeting on July is where the calendar falls. Unless anybody has anything else, we'll entertain a motion to go into executive session to discuss.
Tom, I might have something. Dan, did you have something?
No, I was just gonna jump in for Tom if his audio is breaking up, that's all.
Okay, thank you. Okay, then I think we're ready for the session.
A lot of things are breaking up here, but okay.
I'll make a motion to go into executive.
Do we need a motion in a second?
Personnel matter.
Yep. Dan made the motion.
Janine, no second. In a second.
It is 7:11.
Okay. So, Sean, we need a vote.
Yeah, I'll go ahead. Mike Clements. Deborah Kessler. Sorry, yes. Sorry. Ron Liacono,
Yes.
Janine Lynch,
Yes.
Bill Miller,
Sorry, yes.
thank you. Bob Schmidt,
Yes.
Tom Shipsky,
Yes.
Linda Tharp,
Yes.
Dan Vos.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry.
You're
Just
on
remember
mute.
you leave this meeting
All
and
right,
you vote.
yes,
You're
thank
on-
you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. Bye.